MegaPodTastic.
Good morning, MegaPodlings. It's Krazy Joe, and I have something that has been on my mind regarding movies, the way they're being currently released, and what it means for the future. Trolls World Tour went direct to streaming. Scoob, the Scooby-Doo reboot, is going direct to streaming. Artemis Fowl is going direct to Disney+. And movie theaters are supposedly reopening in July. That's the plan. Tenet, Mulan, those movies are slated to open in July. AMC Theaters says they will reopen when they have movies to show. So the suspicion is that most theaters will be open in July to show Tenet and Mulan. That's obviously what they're hoping for. Will it actually happen? Only time will tell. But that's the current plan. And Wonder Woman 1984 is set to open in August. There has been a lot of questions about whether people will actually be ready to go back into movie theaters when they open. Just because the theater open doesn't mean the people are going to show up. Because a lot of people might still be nervous about sitting in a crowded theater. People might still want to keep their social distance, and they might think, well, we've been cleared to go outside, but I personally am not comfortable with it yet. And people may steer clear of movie theaters. Time will tell. We really don't know yet. So this got me thinking, how are the movie studios going to determine in this current age where we are now what movies are hits and what movies are failures? Think about it. The way the studios know, traditionally, if a movie is a hit or not, is the amount of money it makes. Wonder Woman makes a ton of money. Warner Brothers says, hey, we made a ton of money on Wonder Woman. That's a hit. Give a green light to Wonder Woman 2. We're going to make a second Wonder Woman because the first one was a big hit. It's the way it traditionally goes. Well, Trolls was a hit. Hence, there was a Trolls 2, Trolls World Tour. From what I understand, Trolls World Tour did pretty good on the online platform, but not quite what Universal was hoping for. So that begs the question, does Universal greenlight a Trolls 3? And if they do, does Trolls 3 go to video, direct to video, or does it go to the big screen? Because I can't think of an example where a franchise went direct to home theater and then went back to the movie theaters. Usually it's like, I guess the closest example I could think of would be the American Pie movies. They made the like Bandcamp and, the Naked Mile and, the spin-off movies where the only one who came back was Eugene Levy. But then after they made 4 of those direct-to-video movies, they made American Reunion, and the original cast came back and it got a theatrical sequel. So I guess there is a precedent, but generally speaking, once a franchise hits the direct-to-video market, there's usually no going back to theaters. There traditionally isn't. So what happens with Trolls 3? Does Universal decide, hey, Trolls 2 made enough, we want to make a Trolls 3, and did they take it back to the big screen? Or is that now a direct-to-video franchise? I don't know. How does Universal decide? Scoob is now going direct to video. This is a very interesting one because Scoob was intended to be the first film in a brand new Hanna-Barbera cinematic universe. If you watch the trailers for Scoob, Blue Falcon and Dino Mutt are in there. And the villain of the piece, and I'm not giving anything away, it's in the trailer, the villain of Scoob is Dick Dastardly. And Dick Dastardly, for anyone who's up on their Hanna-Barbera, if you're not up on your Hanna-Barbera, Dick Dastardly is sort of like the one-size-fits-all Hanna-Barbera villain. He always shows up in various projects. He was the villain on the old ride at Universal Studios where he kidnapped Elroy Jetson and Yogi Bear was chasing him down. But Dick Dastardly and his dog Muttley have kind of been the one-size-fits-all villains in Hanna-Barbera cartoons. And Captain Caveman, by the way. Captain Caveman is in this Scooby-Doo movie. So the plan was that this was going to launch a big screen Hanna-Barbera cinematic universe. Well, now it's going direct to streaming. How does Warner Brothers know if there's a market for Scoob 2 or whatever would come next, whether it be Yogi Bear, the Flintstones, the Jetsons, Help It's the Hair Bear Bunch? I don't know. Whatever the next step in this Hanna-Barbera shared animated cinematic universe would have been, do they go ahead with it now? Or is this now a direct-to-video franchise? Now, those, at least you have the numbers for online rentals, online sales. You can look at that and judge and say, would we have made more in the theater? Yeah, you've got something to go by. The more interesting one, I think, is going to be Wonder Woman 1984, because these superhero movies are big and expensive. And if a superhero movie doesn't make back its money, they usually don't greenlight a sequel. Usually. There's no Green Lantern 2, There's no Fantastic Four 3 with the original Fantastic Four cast. These movies are too expensive. They usually don't get a sequel if the movie doesn't perform. So, Wonder Woman 1984, it's interesting because it's opening in August. It's opening in August. It's going to be open. Theaters will probably have been open less than a month or maybe just a month when Wonder Woman 84 opens. And as we said, a lot of people may not be comfortable going back to theaters yet. So that begs the question, if Wonder Woman bombs at the box office, how does Warner Brothers know if it bombed due to A, lack of interest from the audience, or B, audiences wanted to see the movie but were too afraid, too nervous to go sit in a crowded theater? How do they make that determination? Because if the audiences are interested in Wonder Woman 2 and just sat it out because they were nervous about the virus, then a Wonder Woman 3 makes sense. Wonder Woman 3 makes sense then because the audience does like Wonder Woman. The audience does want to see Wonder Woman. And Wonder Woman 84's box office would have been a victim of just bad timing, and it would have no reflection on the film itself. However, what if audiences just aren't interested in the movie? And what if, in the best of circumstances, this movie wasn't going to perform at the box office? And we really don't know now. Now, when this movie opens up, if it bombs, we're not going to know if it's A or if it's B. So that's going to put Warner Brothers in an interesting position where they're going to have to basically figure out, was this movie on a sliding scale a hit or not? Or was it an intended hit? And what I mean by an intended hit is this a movie that the audience absolutely would have shown up for were it not for fears of the virus? And that's a legitimate question. And I don't know how the studios are going to maneuver these little interesting minefields that they've never had to deal with before. They haven't. This is all new. And I'm really curious because Wonder Woman's the most interesting one because that is going to be opening in theaters. But we don't know that people are going to go see it. And I think it had the potential to be $1 billion movie. People really liked the first one. It's coming off Aquaman and The Joker, which were both $1 billion movies. Harley Quinn doesn't really count because that was an R rating, so that was never going to have the same metrics as a PG-13 film. Then again, The Joker was R-rated too. So maybe we just say coming off Aquaman or coming off Shazam. But basically, with the exception of Harley Quinn, which, and I've said it a million times, that was totally due to the R rating. If that had been a PG-13, that movie would have made a lot more money. But basically, DC's coming off a hot streak. Aquaman was a hit, big hit. Joker was a big hit. Shazam was a hit. And now here comes a Wonder Woman sequel, a sequel to one of the most popular movies in this franchise. This could be huge. This could be $1 billion movie. But right now it may not be. because of the virus. Or maybe it was never going to be. Maybe it was never going to be. There's always hit movies that make a ton of money, that get sequels that don't perform. Fantastic Four. I gave you the example of Fantastic Four. Fantastic Four made enough money for Fox to greenlight Rise of the Silver Surfer. Rise of the Silver Surfer did not make enough money for them to greenlight a third film. So that's really interesting. Will there be a Wonder Woman 3? How will Warner Brothers know? How will Warner Brothers know if they continue the Scoob franchise? I don't know. I'm really curious. This is all new territory, and I want to hear what you think. How will the studios determine what the hits are and what was a failure in an era where people not showing up to the theater may not be reflective of the film itself and may not be reflective of audiences' interest in seeing the film, but may in fact be because of fears of the virus? Tell me what you think. I'm really curious. This is an interesting one for me, and I don't think we have answers yet. Keep wearing those pajamas.
Keep wearing those pajamas with the plastic feet. Keep wearing those pajamas. Tell everyone you meet. Keep wearing those pajamas with the back door flap. Keep wearing those pajamas. Don't open, it's a trap. Oh no, it's a trap. Some people call them PJs, some people call them jammies. They can come embroidered with big money and no whammies. They can have 100 tiny commander Adamas, but no matter how they look, just keep on wearing those pajamas. Keep on wearing those pajamas. Keep wearing those pajamas. And now we're having fun. Keep wearing those pajamas. And now the song is done.